Hello, everyone. Hi, Connor.
Did the government put pressure on the RCMP to release information so that for political reasons?
Absolutely not.
Can you tell us what happened? What conversations that you had that led the commissioner to believe that you wanted information?
I think the commissioner has issued a statement last night, and she makes very clear that there was no interference. She had a conversation with her subordinates, and that's her job as the commissioner, but there was no pressure brought to bear and no interference with the operational decisions of the RCMP.
Did your office ask her for any information on the types of firearms used?
As the Minister of Public Safety, I was routinely briefed by the Commissioner and her staff on the ongoing events in Nova Scotia. And so I was being frequently kept up to date. That's part of my responsibility as the Minister, or was my responsibility as the Minister of Public Safety.
We have two officers making allegations that there was political interference here. What do you say to what the officers are saying, and just where, in your mind, where did that come from?
All I can say, first of all, I don't know why they're officer. I've never had a conversation with them, but there was no political interference, and I was sure of that.
Did the government ask the RCMP to give you the names of the weapons that were used so you could use it in your gun announcement?
No, and I'll help you recall that when we made the announcement, and I spoke to the issue, and I was asked very specifically by members of the press about the weapons, and I made it very clear that that was an operational issue, that and that information should only come from the RCMP and not from us.
Now, the opposition's not satisfied with the blanket denial. They're saying there's still questions. We have conflicting testimony from the handwritten notes to what they're hearing from the government. They want more answers. Would you be happy with some sort of committee investigation or something, or take part in order to get more answers?
First of all, I have absolute respect for Parliament and the choices it makes and how it determines to deal with these issues. But I am very comfortable that there was no interference in this case. I've made that statement in the House. The Commissioner has also made that statement confirming that there was no interference in this case, and so that's the information we've provided.
Have you spoken with the Commissioner?
No, I haven't. I'm sorry, Rafi?
Our statement's good enough when we're talking about the potential interference of a police commissioner and information flow.
No. There was a suggestion by somebody I'd never spoken to, but I'm just advising you, and I'm advising Canadians through you, that there was no interference in this case. There was no pressure placed upon the RCMP, and no interference with their operational decisions. This is actually an important line between government and the operations of the police commissioner and the RCMP. It's a line that has always been respected. Both the commissioner and I respected that important delineation of responsibilities. When I was public safety minister, the commissioner had a responsibility to account for the actions of her service to the ministry. But at the same time, at no point in time could there ever be any interference in an ongoing investigation, and that includes the communications with respect to that investigation.
I'm yelling over my friends here. But the Commissioner even said that she's handled the situation poorly in the aftermath, and these conversations that are the subject of all of this controversy right now. Do you still have faith in Brenda Lucki as the Commissioner of the RCMP?
You know what? I recall this terribly tragic incident in which a member of the RCMP and many Canadians lost their lives, and there was a great deal of trauma that was impacting on those officers and on that community. There was a need, and we heard it very clearly from the people of Nova Scotia, the families and the communities that were impacted by this violence. You know, they wanted information, they needed information, and the RCMP had an incredibly difficult job. And so I have a great deal of empathy and sympathy for the challenges both faced by the community and the RCMP in these circumstances. I think the Commissioner of the RCMP has been very clear that she regrets some aspects of the conversation she had with her subordinates, but that's entirely between the Commissioner and her subordinates. There is no involvement or role for government in that. I respect those processes, and I know from experience how difficult those challenges
you were saying, and the Commissioner is saying, that there was no political interference, but Canadians are looking what the Superintendent has said, and that there was political interference. How should Canadians square the fact that you're saying one thing and someone who is in the media is saying the complete opposite thing?
The Superintendent obviously came to his own conclusions, and his notes reflect that. But I'm telling you, and I would tell the Superintendent if I spoke to him, that I made no effort to pressure the RCMP to interfere in any way with their investigation. I gave no direction as to what information they should communicate. Those are operational decisions of the RCMP, and I respect that, and I have respected that throughout.
Did the Commissioner promise you that she would get you information?
No, she did not.
And just to be clear, because you didn't directly answer, do you still have faith in Brenda Lucki as RCMP Commissioner?
Of course. She has a very difficult and challenging job. The circumstances of the terrible tragedy in Portapique, Nova Scotia in 2020 were unprecedented and incredibly difficult and traumatic for not just for her, but for her entire force and, of course, for that community. And so I understand the enormous challenges they face. It's also important that the work of the Mass Casualty Commission continue. You know, they issued a very extensive report on some of the, very significant communication challenges that existed in the immediate aftermath of that event. And that information is important to inform the families and the victims and the communities about what really happened in this event. And they need and deserve those answers.
We are reaching out to the two officers to try to get to the bottom of how they got the
Can I tell you, first of all, that would be entirely inappropriate for me to do so. It's the work of the Mass Casualty Commission. My interaction as the former Minister of Public Safety was at that time the Commissioner of the RCMP, and I do not have any direct intervention or connection to the men and women, her subordinates within her service.
Do you agree with the assertion that releasing more information about what happened with the shooter of the gun or any more details would have jeopardized the investigation?
Again, that's not for me to say. But can I just also remind you that we campaigned in the summer of 2019 that we were going to strengthen gun control and ban military-style assault rifles. When we were elected and formed government and I was named the Minister of Public Safety and the Prime Minister gave me a mandate letter, contained right in that mandate letter was a commitment that we were going to strengthen gun control and that we were going to ban military-style assault rifles. That work continued unrelentingly and vigorously throughout the next several months as we worked with the Canadian Firearms Program, we worked with Public Safety Ministry, we worked with and consulted with people across the country to develop a very comprehensive list of over 1,500 military-style assault rifles. And we kept that promise. That was our commitment to Canadians, that we would ban those rifles, and we banned them. And we now know that weapons like this have been used in mass shootings at École Polytechnique, at a mosque in Quebec, and they've been used to murder police officers in Moncton. They've been used to murder police officers in Meyerthorpe. They've killed worshippers in Christchurch and at the Tree of Life synagogue, and they've killed little kids in places like Uvalde, Texas, and Sandy Hook. And so, in banning those weapons, I believe that we have made Canada a safer country. We've made it more difficult for people who are intent on mass murder to acquire the instruments and to gain access to the firearms that are used in those mass murders. And I think that was entirely appropriate, necessary, and frankly, one of the great lessons for us of the terrible tragedy in Nova Scotia is that we need to do everything possible to keep our communities safe, and that includes restricting access to those weapons designed only to murder people from people who are intent on doing so.
So why are Brenda Lucki's colleagues throwing this accusation at her now?
Again, I'm not going to comment on. Commissioner Lucki is responsible for her organization. She's the commissioner of the RCMP, and she's obviously had a number of conversations with her subordinates, and that is her job within the service. I am not going to, quite frankly, I'm no longer the Minister of Public Safety, but even as the Minister, I've always been very mindful of my responsibility to first of all, to hold the Commissioner accountable for the work of her service, but not to ever direct her in operations, which includes investigations and communications about those investigations.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much.